welcome to the Filmcast review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I'm going to read the plot summary from the internet. After failing to defeat Aquaman for the first time, Black Manta wields the power of the mythic Black Trident to unleash an ancient and malevolent force. Hoping to end his reign of terror, Aquaman forges an unlikely alliance with his brother Orm, the former king of Atlantis. End quote. So, in addition to being a sequel to James Wan's smash hit Aquaman movie, this is also the end of the Snyderverse, guys. This is how it all ends. Now there will be remnants of the Snyderverse that live on, is my understanding. I think, for instance, James Gunn has already said the Blue Beetle character, he plans to bring that character back, that version of the character back. But like, this is essentially the end of it. And we should acknowledge that it has had a very, very rough year. There was Shazam, Fury of the Gods, there was The Flash, and there was Blue Beetle.
Flash was this year?
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah, wild.
None of those movies did well. None of those movies were hits. As we are recording this, we don't know how well this movie is going to do, but I think it will struggle.
Not tracking well.
It will struggle to reach $1 billion as the original film did. So yeah, this is kind of the end of this set of characters for this version of this universe. The question for you, Devindra Hardawar, is: does Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom send the Snyderverse out with a bang or with a whimper? What do you think?
More like a huh? That's it. I did not hate this movie. Like, I actually avoided the reviews and Rotten Tomatoes stuff until I actually saw it. I had a lot of fun with this movie as a sort of like, oh, this is James Wan's his version of David Lynch's Dune. It's very Krull. It's very like cheesy 80s sci-fi at times, and I appreciated the vision that was on screen because there's like a fully realized world. There are really interesting creatures. There are actual sets that look bonkers and insane. It's like, why did you build that giant set? It doesn't even make sense, and people look ridiculous in it often, especially who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Randall Park. Poor Randall Park just does not get much love in this movie because he just gets the most ridiculous dialogue and scenes. This is not a good movie, but I did have a good time watching it because I think some of it is enjoyable. I love the first Aquaman, but I also know plenty of people who hate that movie. And the people who hate that movie will think this is the scum of the earth. Like, this movie is a mess, totally. But I can't deny I had some fun with it. Like, James Wan, even when he is producing a mess, occasionally there will be sparks of brilliance or some really cool set pieces or action scenes. I wish there were more of those. I wish this movie didn't, apparently it feels like very purposefully sideline Amber Heard's character. And there were rumors of what was going on with her because of the whole Johnny Depp thing. It's also dumb. But yeah, it feels weirdly disjointed. It's just not as fun as the first movie, and that's a damn shame.
I mean, I think this movie is getting so unfairly panned right now. It has a 36% on Rotten
It's very
Tomatoes.
fashionable to pan this movie,
right? And I just don't think it's even the worst superhero film I've seen in the last 2 months.
Yes, yeah, this is no Quantumania.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm a little bit surprised at the reaction. That said, Jeff Kanata, what did you think of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say what I think of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is best summed up in the form of a limerick.
Interesting.
He's kind of the DCU's Thor. And the first one was fun, so make more. But let me explain to you, it's like Quantumania, a bombastic, effects-laden bore.
Wow. Nicely.
I am nothing if not fashionable, you guys.
Yeah.
And if it is fashionable to trans this movie, I loved the first Aquaman. You will recall, I believe I was the most enthusiastic.
No, I think we were both into it, and I remember Dave being kind of cool on it. But yes, yes,
I had a great time with that first
cheerleading
Aquaman movie. Yeah. I really think that was one of the highlights of this era of DCU films. Was that first Aquaman movie? Super fun. I did not enjoy any of this. Really.
Wow.
I mean, that's not true. Momoa can't help but be charming. He's just a charming dude. And when he gets to be irreverent and funny and kind of taking the piss out of everything, he's great. And taking
the piss.
Yeah, he does
several times.
they do that thing that they have done with the Waititi version of Thor, which is he's this mythological creature that's also kind of
he's like broy. He's like
broy and goofy and subversive, and he'll subvert the scene and all that. And like you can't help but dig it when he throws out a cool line, and he's he's winking at the audience, right? He's just good. I just like Momoa. He's great.
He's very charismatic. Yeah.
Is he as fun in this movie as he is in the last Fast and the Furious movie? Not even close, right? I didn't really care for that movie either, but Momoa is super fun in that. He doesn't even get as much a chance to shine in his own Star Turn sequel as he did in, being the villain in a Fast and the Furious movie that's full of people. Anyway, I digress. The point is, I think this, you just said Quantumania. I put it in the limerick because I think this is Quantumania. This is exactly what was wrong with Quantumania is this movie, which is just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? You can put the visuals that are in this movie and just flood, pun entirely intended, flood the frame with nonsense, just the most wild visuals you've ever seen. But does that mean you should? Like, it's cacophony. This movie is in my opinion, completely collapses under the weight of its budget. The fact that they had this much money to spend on this movie did not make it better. It made it worse. There is too much that doesn't have any bearing. There's no humanity to this movie. They throw a baby in, which you heard in the trailer. They throw a baby in to just be a MacGuffin. There's no actual humanity. There's no actual connection between people. They try really, really hard to create this dynamic between Momoa and Patrick Wilson that didn't exist in the first movie, doesn't exist now, isn't fun, isn't interesting, in my opinion. I just struggle to enjoy anything. And, there are a couple of moments in this movie where there's like a hand-to-hand combat scene where Wan goes, "Oh, we could just shoot this without
just have fun.
All the CG in the world." And you go, "Oh, that's actually pretty cool." But then there's just so much CG density everywhere, just like Quantumania had, which is like, what am I even trying to process in this frame? There's no clarity. There's just more. There's not better. There's just more. And there's so much coming at me all the time. There's these giant set pieces from, like, there's this sequence where they're like running through a forest with all this stuff. It's like, what are we even looking at? What is even happening?
It becomes an Indiana Jones movie at times. Like, it becomes so many different weird things. Yeah.
It's just, it has no idea what it wants to be. It wants to be everything all at once. The best set piece action sequences also feel essential to the storytelling of the movie. They're not like, let's take 15 minutes and step outside our movie and give you this bombastic thing, and then we'll come back. And that's constantly what it feels like in this movie, is like, oh, now it's time for the crazy CGI scene. And like, I don't have a problem with CGI at all. I will point to Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 this year as, like, I said it in my review. I think I said it in my limerick at the time, was this is how you do this level of CG. Like, it was clear, it was focused, it was there to provide texture and world building, and not just be like this fire hose of imagery. It's just like, what the amount of man hours that's on display, the amount of dollars that's on display in this film, for what? Like, what story are you even telling me here? It's just, it's such a shame, because I really enjoyed that first Aquaman movie, and I was legitimately looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you, Jeff. I will just lay out like the differences I see between this and like Quantumania, because yes, they are both full of effects and CG and whatnot, but there was something distinctly empty and vacuous about Quantumania. Maybe it was the scenes, but maybe it was the scenes of them running around the frickin' volume sets, where as you're watching it, you're like, oh, they're in like a 100 square, like a very small area, but they're kind of running around a few physical things and the backgrounds are entirely made up. Whereas here, you will get some scenes where it's like, oh, they built like a freaking cave, right? And the camera will follow them from the beginning of the cave, go up, go down, go through. Like it is a physical thing. And I think that physicality is good. And I do think like the design work of like the sea creatures and stuff and of how you present Atlantis. At some point they go into like a high speed water tunnel or something. They don't really explain it. I was like, oh, that's cool. A society would come up with that. That's kind of interesting. Whereas Quantumania is like, why are there humans here? Why any of this? Whereas I didn't have as many of those questions here, but I agree. Looking at these two movies, it could look like similar problems.
I don't think they're as far as apart as all that, but I'm glad you got more out of it than I did. I really felt like this is just another example of the worst excesses in this late stage superhero era where it's like, oh, we have $300 million, $250 million to spend, and let's just spend it without any actual reason, necessity to spend it.
I'm more on Devindra's side on this one. I think that the movie was just fine, in my opinion. There was nothing, but there's a lot of people that find it pretty terrible, and I'm thinking to myself, I guess my expectations were pretty low. I didn't love the first Aquaman. I thought, hey, that was fun, and this one was like maybe slightly less fun than the first Aquaman, and that's kind of what it was. And I thought the Patrick Wilson, Jason Momoa dynamic worked for me. Patrick Wilson's a straight man. Jason Momoa's trying to have fun. Patrick Wilson,
did you bring water to me in the desert prison thing like that? Things like that got me.
Right.
Like,
Patrick Wilson, wants to be king, and Jason Momoa doesn't, and like it all worked for me. Their acting styles are really different, and so like I think that also kind of helped with things. I think that Devindra makes some good points about how the movie tries to do things to make you feel as though you are in an actual physical space. Whether it's successful or not, you can decide. I also think that, as Devindra indicated, James Wan got his start as a horror director. Like most of his movies have been horror films, and this movie clearly shows lots of horror inspirations.
There's a lot of dark fantasy in here.
I really dig. One of the earlier scenes has a innocent bystander being dragged away by a sea creature, and like it looks like, wow, this is from like,
it's pretty. I mean, the basic
it's like
setup of the story.
This is the opening scene of like Jurassic Park. It's like really horror. It's like terrifying, and there's like these ships that the characters use that are like octopus style shit. They have like 8 like legs and whatever, and then inside the cockpit you see that there's like a handle for every
all these rods. And
like handles. I don't even know how that would even work. But
there's a ship that just has a big steering wheel, and I guess everybody got costumes. Everybody got like uniforms to wear. It's like, okay, we're part of a crew. Crew's got a match.
It's so dumb.
It's so
big
dumb.
Steering wheel that she's standing in front of.
Whoa.
What?
But I remember watching Krull for the first time, right? Or even David Lynch's Dune, where it's like, oh, this is so silly. This is so dumb. But I'm having a good time with how dumb it is. And I kind of get the sense that at least James Wan was having fun with how cheesy this is. Whereas I remember Quantumania just being like, oh, there's no vision here. There's no energy here. There's no, like, you're not giving me anything. Whereas this is giving me supreme silliness. People in rubbery outfits, commanding giant steering wheels, saying terrible dialogue, who apparently have figured out how all this technology has worked. It's hilarious. I was laughing at it, but I also enjoyed laughing at it.
But I think there is a bit of self-awareness on James Wan's part. Like he's talked about it in interviews. Like I think there's a self-awareness that like, hey, this is really cheesy. Oh, I will also say this. I actually think the Aquaman suit looks pretty cool.
Very shiny, rad. I love the suit. It's awesome.
Which is not a self-evident thing that they would be able to figure that out.
Do you think that's a physical thing that he's wearing, or is it CG?
It looks like a physical thing to me. It looks like
it was reacting to light better than like the Marvel suits do. I think
there was entire scenes of the movie where I was just looking at the suit.
Suit's good
because the dialogue was entirely missable.
The things they make Nicole Kidman say in this movie, it's amazing.
Poor Nicole Kidman. Poor Dolph Lundgren.
Poor everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I think Devindra and I had some mild fun with this one. And
I will say I was shocked that the post-credit scene was just James Gunn coming out and going, disregard all of this.
Delete.
Don't worry about any of this. It's all gone now.
That was odd. All right.
It was odd.
We have a few spoilers to discuss, so let's get to spoilers for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom starting right now. All right. Let's talk about some of the stuff that happens towards the end of this movie. I mean,
Lord of the Rings. We're just gonna do Lord of the Rings, right?
Well,
So,
that was
yeah.
so weird where he like at one point Patrick Wilson starts describing the history of the Seven Kingdoms,
Mhm,
and I'm
mhm.
like, what is the point of any of this? Like, this doesn't make
Exactly.
why are you choosing this point in the movie to introduce this information?
So dumb.
If the right way to do it is like set it up in the prologue,
Yeah.
like have a
The right way to
prologue
do
and
is
be
at the
like,
beginning with the
Yeah.
Kate Blanchett voiceover.
Yes.
That's how we do this. Okay.
it was baffling though. I'm like, what
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
going on here?
If
Like,
only
why
there
are we
was
even
some template that has been
Yeah.
well established about how to do this.
Yeah, I mean, look,
It's
there's
so
a lot
dumb.
there's a lot of weaknesses in the movie. Like a lot of stuff is not explained.
Mhm.
The fuel that they're harvesting and like what's going on.
Or Calcum, which, by
what-
the way, is a deep cut because
Yeah.
I used to study like classical history and shit. Like,
Yeah.
orichalcum is a thing that has
Yeah.
been mentioned in Atlantean texts, like
Mm.
texts
I've-
about Atlantis. So
I used
yeah.
orichalcum in my D&D campaign.
Nice,
It's,
nice.
it
Yeah.
sounds good too. It's
Yeah.
fun to say, but it's bad
Yeah.
to hear other people say it, I guess, in a script. Yeah.
I mean, okay, I want to highlight a few things that happened in this movie. First of all, it was wild to me that one ship could do this much damage. Like in
And
there,
one ship.
this one ship comes in to steal the orichalcum into Atlantis, which is basically like an underwater Wakanda, like in
Uh-huh,
terms of
yeah.
the advanced technology.
Yeah.
And this
I mean,
one ship
literally
is
the
just
end of the movie is the Wakandan speech, by the way, but go ahead. Yes.
yeah, and it's basically this one ship that doesn't have any like particularly advanced technology is able to just like completely lay waste to this like
Listen, it has
civilization.
ancient technology, ancient suits, ancient steering wheel.
What
I
about
just
when
thought it was
the
ridiculous. This
Amazing.
ship's
What
just like it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
destroying
It's
property.
a submarine. It's barely
killing
a
people
ship.
left there,
It's a submarine.
and
Yeah.
then it's like and then barely gets out of there. And I'm like,
They're water people. Why would they make a submarine? They live in the water.
It's so true. What about the fact that the whales can sing their way to destroying something?
I mean, I love it. I love it. This is the year,
that was pretty
including,
cool though.
including
No, it was
Avatar
not.
2. This is the year of whales taking revenge. They've had enough in real
The,
life
the
too.
question is, why didn't they use that skill earlier in the film? You know, that's what I want to know.
Mhm.
But what's
It's
what's
so
wrong with
dumb.
whales singing their way to victory, Jeff Canada? I think that's a very
No,
reasonable.
sing your way to victory, by all means. Sing your way to just destroying a submarine. Like, we'll sing it to death. That's
Sing
what
it
we'll
to
do.
I was
Yeah.
expecting like a good music drop or something, just blasted underwater to really annoy them, and that would be a James Gunn move. Whereas I guess we did not.
I mean, we
that
did
here.
get a bunch of like contemporary
Yeah.
music
We did.
drops in this
Some
movie.
needle
A
drops.
lot. So many
This-
dumb things. There's one cool thing I
Uh-huh.
thought was cool. I did like throwing the second trident through
Yes.
the first
Yeah,
trident.
that was cool. That was a
Yes.
cool moment.
That was cool.
Cool
That was
moment.
cool.
Cool moment. I mean,
do-
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I think oddly, the movie feels like it is trying to do too many things. Like
Mhm.
Yes.
there is this thing where this plot line of like Jason Momoa bonding with his dad, Tamira Morrison in the movie,
Mhm.
and that's like nice. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like,
Or-
boy, wouldn't it be cool if like that was actually like a really prominent
Or
theme in the movie?
Him
You know,
being
like,
a dad. Like,
yeah,
the beginning of the movie is like, I'm a dad now. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's
yeah, that's
a
what
movie
a cool,
about.
yeah,
Where's the mom?
yeah,
Where's the mom of that whole opening?
Yeah.
Where's Amber Heard? Because
Yeah.
they're still together.
yeah.
That's still
but it's
her
like, but then
son.
it's like, hey, let's completely jettison that
Yeah,
theme.
yeah.
Like, we're not
The
even
only
going to deal
reason
with
the
it.
baby is there is to do the blood thing at the end.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's not.
Yeah.
They don't need my blood.
Yeah. And then Tamira Morrison is fine. Like he just ends up like
It's good.
he was mortally wounded, but
Well,
then
the
it's
guy
like,
goes,
no.
I'm definitely not going to kill you. So
For
that,
plot reasons.
Yeah, so that you see how bad I am.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
dumb.
It's
So
But then
dumb.
it's like, okay, they have to
Mhm.
develop this relationship between
Mhm.
Aquaman and his brother, and then theoretically set up the Seven Kingdoms for what I assume are a future thing. You know, like
I don't
so
know.
the movie just tries to shove in a bunch of different things that like they don't and also like honestly the fact that it was this Manta character from the first movie
Mhm.
made this movie kind of feel like a DVD special feature plot wise.
It's
for
the
literally
first
a
film.
rehash of the first movie.
It's
in-
kind of
in
like
well,
same
hey,
scenarios,
remember,
yeah.
we got to tie up this loose end from the
Yeah.
first movie.
Who
you
was
know, like,
clamoring for the two of them to become good guys? Like, who was like, oh man, I really wish he and Patrick Wilson would do a buddy cop movie.
I think it was Jason Momoa because he has a story credit on this movie. So I don't know. Like,
but there's a line where he's like, "Hey, come on, Loki," and I was like, "You just acknowledged the thing you're ripping off. That you're doing a poorer version of."
This movie ends with "I am Iron Man." You know,
Well,
like,
but, like,
it
in
is
the
all
Marvel-
just pulling. Yeah.
It is such a microcosm, and I know this is my bugaboo, and I know everybody's gonna be like, "You're such a Marvel zombie." Whatever, I own it. But it is such a microcosm of everything that's been wrong with the way they did the DCU this time. Is they, the Marvel like established Loki, has a whole movie where he's the bad guy, have another movie where he's the bad guy with Thor, and then we get the turn, then we pull him in. You think Loki is awesome and has his own sort of stuff going on, and then we put them together in the buddy cop thing, and now it matters. It means something. It's something we wanted. No one thought that about Patrick Wilson's character. No one. And then you acknowledge it by calling him Loki and being like, we're doing the exact same thing the other company did, but we're doing it worse.
I think, Jeff, you are looking back on the MCU with rose-colored glasses. Okay, Thor got a complete personality transplant for Thor Ragnarok, and
I know that,
but it's just like
it was not as well planned.
It is okay for movies to do stuff like that, in my opinion. So, like, I'm way less angry about it than you are.
The tip of the hat to like, we're doing the same shit, but worse. It's like the reason it's worse is because literally nobody watched that first Aquaman movie and went, man, what would be rad is more of that Patrick Wilson character. But people watched Loki and went, man, he's rad. I want more of that Loki character.
I'll grant you that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I personally did want more of that Patrick Wilson character because I thought he was pretty
I think
good.
Patrick Wilson
in the first
is pretty
movie.
cool. I think he is pretty cool.
This is not an attack on Patrick Wilson.
Yeah. How dare
the man
you?
would crush me. Have you seen his pecs?
I've seen his pecs.
Okay, you have to admit that was kind of cool the way they made him. They did like the Captain America, like giving him like a
the emaciated
body, and then all of a sudden he's like that moment when he gets the water washing over him.
It's
that's a cool moment, Jeff.
This movie is so 80s because it's very much the I was emaciated, then splash. This movie is knowingly cheesy, and that's the thing. Like I think I was just like on the vibe of how cheesy it was and enjoying that. And people behind me in the theater too were like cackling at it, not because it was dumb, but they were like enjoying what they were seeing too. So it's a weird balance. I don't know. I feel like James Wan just gave no shits, right? Like it's all the Marvel references. You're ending with "I am Iron Man," literally, like ending with like the Wakanda sequence too. It's he knew like there was nothing after this. So
I do
he
think
put it
you're
all
right.
on the table.
I do think you're right, Jeff, that there is something like from the beginning. Look, the DC universe has been a mixed bag, but there have been some good things.
Agreed.
But I think from the beginning, it is an entire creative enterprise that has spawned out of trying to imitate another successful.
Yes. Yes.
And there's something about this movie, and particularly the way it ends, right? As Devindra indicated,
it's cloying.
That is like kind of like we have reached the logical endpoint of this enterprise, which is just straight up acknowledging we're ripping these people off. Right? There's something like poetic about. Yeah. At the end of the day,
mask off.
Mask off. At the end of the day, we are just trying to be Marvel. That's kind of what
we just want you to like us. Get a step bill again, please.
Yeah, and you may find it cloying. Some people might find it. What's the opposite of cloying?
Endearing?
Endearing.
No, that's too strong. Less cloying.
I'll grant you that. Yeah. Some may find it.
Some may find it less cloying. Some may find it like a tiny bit charming, perhaps. Like the younger brother that's always trying to like make a science project that's as good as the older brother, Who knows? But yeah, the ending did kind of that did irritate me, I have to say. Like I was kind of like, oh really? This is where it's you're not even gonna try to be original anymore at this point. Like, but I guess
I'm pretty sure people know Aquaman exists as well. Like they were doing stuff. They were fighting aliens and trying to save the world. Like
that's weird. It's weird.
Also,
weird.
Did you guys have that moment where he's like, I know somebody that could help? And I was like, Superman, maybe?
Any of your super friends? Yeah.
Like
No.
Wonder Woman? I don't know. These extremely powerful people you've hung out with?
No,
maybe
my,
them?
my physically incapacitated brother who hates me.
Yeah, or maybe how
Oh,
about
man.
the evil guy who was the problem last time? No. Literally the entire world is at stake. Maybe call Wonder Woman.
Maybe call one of them. What is Superman doing? Who knows? He's taking a hot sauna.
It's wild that Wonder Woman showed up in, like, I think she was in Shazam.
Yeah.
But didn't show up in this movie, which is like ostensibly like a bigger film. So
Mhm.
Well,
Anyway.
I think they'd already given up by that point.
I know how to fix the ending of this movie, by the way, everybody. You keep the I am Aquaman line. Do a beat. You hear somebody in the crowd go, "We know." Cut to credits. Cut to credits.
well done, Devindra. Well done.
It's so weird. That moment was so because it's played like a applause line.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what the what are we
All right.
doing?
I'll mention a couple of last things. I think like James Wan's creature designs.
So cool.
He's not the one
Yeah.
that is. He doesn't do creature design, but he like oversees it, obviously.
Mhm.
Dude,
But
Martin
you could,
Short. Martin
Yeah.
Short shows up as a creature in this movie.
As Jabba the Hutt. It's
Or
Jabba.
the head. He's the head of the Gungans, is what he is. He's the Gungan king that they go and see in
Yeah.
episode
Yeah.
1.
So I
Yeah,
think all the
that's
creature
true.
designs are cool, and some of them are like genuinely terrifying. I have to tell you guys, here's another extremely random observation. You know that whole Titanic Ocean Gate submersible thing that happened in
Mhm.
2023? That has ruined all underwater movies for me. For a variety of reasons. Because whenever I'm watching underwater
Don't watch
movies,
The Abyss again.
I have two reactions. Number one, those suits would not be able to withstand that pressure.
Mhm.
And number two, how are they communicating? Because there's no radio waves underwater.
Also, again, why does the alien ship have those suits? They were underwater creatures.
Right.
They lived underwater. They don't need suits. Did they make the suits for the human crew?
Devindra, I
now?
think
Yeah.
earlier in the review you were referring to like these ships, or
Yeah.
like these things that they have where it's like all this space, and it's
All
like
this, it's a big set.
that doesn't. It's just weird.
It's a big set for James Wan to be like, I need the widest angle you have. Give me the widest angle camera because I got to shoot this big space. This
And you
ship
would
is way
never
too big.
design a submersible in
You
that
would never
fashion,
do that.
basically. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
We're talking about realism in a movie where an octopus plays drums. So who's really
The
laughing
octopus
at the
did
end?
not play drums. He is known for playing.
He is
bongo.
a secret agent
He's a secret agent.
in this movie. So
Yes.
it
We
does
saw
have
him
that.
pling drums in the last movie. Everybody loved it.
Also,
Now he's a secret agent.
no payoff for that character. You establish Topo. There's character has. We have a bigger payoff for the seahorse that gets 4 seconds of screen time.
Topo's on it's part of it. Topo's on the horse and
I guess.
dragging them out.
Yeah.
Topo and horse together.
Well, anyway,
It's so bad, you guys.
All hail Topo. All
this
hail
is
Topo.
this is the end of the DC universe, the Zack Snyder DC universe. We will not. I don't think we'll see another DC film until Superman Legacy in 2025. So
And next week we'll get to see what Zack Snyder's up to. It's gonna be great.
Indeed. Aquaman, the Snyderverse died so that Rebel Moon could live.
You know what?
And
We'll
we
see
will-
if that's a good trade.
We will see if that is a good trade, but I have my own guesses.
I
Anyway,
think we're gonna have a lot of fun reviewing that movie.
any other thoughts about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom? Or shall we wrap it up there?
Topo lives. Again, what happened to Amber Heard's character? I don't know. It does. It feels really weird what happened to her because there is this whole opening sequence of like, I'm a father now, doing fathery stuff.
Yeah.
The mother's right there. It's not just on him. Also, king of the Aqua Kingdom. You can't get a nanny. You can't get like a little. You're not. They do like an ode to single dads, and his dad was a single dad because the mom was away, but he's not a single dad.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a good
it's
point.
weird. It's so
Yeah.
weird.
I'm a little different than you. I actually thought I was surprised at how much Amber Heard was in it. To be frank, I was surprised.
She just appears. She appears out of nowhere.
She
There's no like
does.
acknowledgement that
Yeah.
oh I love you, wife. Or I don't
She is almost completely absent from the marketing, I think, for
Yeah.
unfortunate reasons. But yeah,
because Johnny Depp sucks.
There's all
the
these.
record.
There is a lot of weirdness, and also like, there's this whole dynamic with like the council. They're trying to
I know.
remove his wartime
For what?
powers.
The
and stuff.
council.
For what?
And it's like,
why?
well, it could have been interesting, Jeff Canal.
But it wasn't.
It could have been interesting, but it's also like, oh, you guys suck.
Take it easy, Jeff. We are agreeing, okay? Like you don't need to take your anger out of me, okay?
It could have been a trip to Maui, but it was a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like what? It could have fed homeless people.
It is.
was a movie.
It's funny that we're championing Aquaman using like extrajudicial powers to like break this whole like democratic order that they have.
Well, yeah,
you're
it's
really cheering on a fascist over here, but you know,
absolutely. And that, by the way, a subplot that is never dealt with again. You know, like
Yeah.
he theoretically violates all these rules by getting Orm out of prison, but then we never deal with that. But yeah, the idea that he's spending half his time on the surface, it's like. It's like, oh, he's like the Jack Dorsey of Atlantis, you know? He's splitting his time between Twitter and Square.
That's what we all say.
You know? Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, you know, that creates interesting dilemmas that the movie then does not explore in any.
I guess childcare does not exist on that lighthouse island. Like, no help for Aquaman. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Did you guys actually stay for the mid-credit scene?
I stayed.
I did, yeah.
I was tweeting. Yeah.
Has there been a less necessary mid-credit scene in the history of mid-credit scenes?
This is also one of the only times I think that there has been a mid-credit scene that is literally just a scene from the movie, but extended for another 30 seconds.
Yes,
like
it's
you literally
just like
see
you could have easily put that in the movie. You just cut it and put it over here.
Well, it's what they did with the Avengers again. It's the payoff for shawarma.
The shawarma place, yeah.
But
not even as clever or funny.
But the shawarma, that was physically a different
It was
shot.
mentioned. No, I'm saying shawarma was seated in the film. And they're like, I gotta go to shawarma someday.
Dave is right that we didn't have a scene of them at the shawarma place that ended, and then we saw more of that scene later.
That's true. That's true.
It was literally a different camera setup.
Yeah, listen, the budget was just getting really low. They just had to do another shot.
There was actually no reason why they couldn't have just put the entire Patrick Wilson ordering burger scene as the post-credit scene.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
All of it.
Well, Jeff, I'm sorry that this one didn't do it for you.
It bums me out. I was one of the people, among my friends, among people I know, that kept defending the first Aquaman movie. I think that movie's fun. I had a good time with it. And I genuinely was excited about that. I think I was the one that was like, we got to review this. Because I really wanted to see it. And I was like, right next to Christmas time, it's not going to be easy to go see this.
I definitely want to review this too. Yeah. Because also James Wan swung song in this whole, in this genre. You know, like, I love it when this guy does weird things. And I don't know.
I like the phrase fine. James Wan swan song.
Swang song.
It was fine. It was fine.
It wasn't. It wasn't fine.
We'll see what fine is next week when we review Rebel Moon.
Yes. Jeff, you will be begging. You will be begging for the visual splendor of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom when we are discussing Rebel Moon. All right, at the end of the day, it is really impressive that James Wan made a movie. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.